Hello everyone, just doing a quick rundown of Game 11 of the World Chess Championship between Sergey Karjakin with the white pieces, who is also the challenger, in case you didn't know, versus Magnus Carlsen with the black pieces. This is it's an interesting game coming into it because Karjakin had just lost Game 10, and it was interesting to see what he would come back with the white pieces. And also was interesting from Magnus' point of view, since he's just coming off the victory, would he try to go for the kill here? So this game started off with the same Roy Lopez opening that Karyakin has been playing the whole match without really any notable success as far as getting any type of advantage or position to play for or anything. So, um, what's interesting to me, and the only reason why I'm commenting on this game is just because of the psychological aspect. After these 11 games, it's clear to see that Magnus is the one pressing the action and definitely the stronger player. This match reminds me of just someone um, just trying to basically survive. Like if this was a boxing match, you hear about fighters just trying to survive. Sometimes there's a mismatch, um, in the boxing ring, and there's an experienced journeyman fighter fighting the world champion, and he's clearly losing the fight, but he doesn't get knocked out. He's skilled enough to still hold his hands up, and grab and hold and things like that, and get through the fight. Now, although this match is tied up one apiece, we all know that Magnus basically let one game definitely for sure slip through his hands, and definitely possibly another in an advantageous position. And then the game that Magnus lost was from a position that he was comfortable in and could have easily drawn and just overpressed. So we could see that Magnus is definitely the alpha male here, just trying to constantly bring it to Karyakin. Now, one game he lost that worked against him. So this game was the same line in the Rui Lopez, and Carlsen is very well prepared here. So it's interesting because before the match, and I'm going to be playing some moves as I talk because we had the same thing as before. But basically, it was interesting before the match because we were told about Karyakin having the support of what Russian grandmasters and all the preparation that he might be able to do. And I would have to say that this match, I have not been impressed with his preparation at all. Seems like Magnus has handled it pretty good, and he's basically been able to play on his type of positions. Even when he played the Trompowski, which doesn't have the highest reputation, he still got a decent game, even though that was drawn that first game in the match. And then he played that Kali system, where again Karyakin was clearly wind up being better, and he still was able to outmuscle Karyakin in that position to where he could have drawn, and then he overpressed and lost at the end. So I haven't really been impressed with Karyakin's games as white, especially this line in the Roy Lopez. Like he doesn't get anything in this game whatsoever. We see 15 Queen G4, just eyeing this pawn right here. I mean, the game is pretty much already equal. I mean, we had this double pawns, but these are actually going to benefit black later on. And I made a video that you could check out called "Are Double Pawns Bad?" I think that was the title, but it's about double pawns. And like anything else in chess, there's good sides and bad sides to it. It's good times positions where double pawns are good, and times when they're not good. There's so sometimes double pawns are good, sometimes they're bad, and it's up to the experienced player to determine the situations. Here, the double pawns are pretty harmless here. They actually strengthen the support on e5, or the defensive e5 rather, for black, and I like the influence of the pawn on d4 in white's position. It's hard for white to really make a move with the c pawn without damaging his own pawn. So this pawn is serving as a wedge in the position. This first one, this one on d4, and the one on d6 is serving as um, a defensive stalwart, in that e4 to e5 is prevented. So it's interesting. And if you not familiar, there's a variation in the Roy Lopez that's centered around these double pawns. I'll just show it to you real quick. It's called the Bird's variation of the Roy Lopez, named after a player named Bird who played in the 1800s. I'm not saying it's a good opening, but this is the Bird's variation of the Roy Lopez, with the immediate counterattack on the bishop here. And of course the main line goes knight takes d4, e takes d4, and d3 can be played, or a castle. And nowadays there used to be different moves played here, like c6, sometimes even knight f6, but at the higher levels, the main move here is bishop c5, and then play would go d3, and maybe c6, bishop c4, and sometimes you get a move like knight f6, knight f3. But just to make a point here, you'll get these doubled pawns sometimes in the position after this. And practice has shown that these double pawns aren't as good as what we see in the game. So let's just get back to our position. We can see here that these double pawns are pretty solid, and white doesn't really have any advantage. But he does have this target on d7, and plans on playing f5 here. So there it is, f5, attacking this pawn. Rook a e8, bishop d2, rooks are connected, and this is probably the best square for the bishop, actually, as it eyes these diagonals, covers a lot of space here. Magnus plays c4 here, and he's ramping up his counterplay on the queen side. h3, and nice solid move here by Magnus c3, and he just liquidates the pawns on the queen side here with this maneuver. So d5, bishop takes g5. We see some trades taking place, and we see the destruction of the white center. And now Magnus has given Karjakin the double pawns. Good move by Magnus, because this pawn at the end of the day is going to secure the draw and threaten victory for black. So black has nothing to worry about. So I guess the point is, and notice I didn't really comment on a lot of the moves because I saw a lot of you listen to a lot of the commentary. But the thing is that with all that supposed preparation, this is the best that Karyakin's team can come up with. I think he's in for in for some disappointing news. I actually think the game. I actually don't even think um, the championship will go to tie breaks. I think that in the next white game, Carlsen will beat him because Carlsen is pressing the game with the white pieces or the black pieces. And it's not supposed to be like that. Usually it's okay when you have your white pieces. That's when you take your shot, and the other players on the defensive, and it's sufficient to hold with the black pieces. And here it seemed like Carlsen is just basically Carlsen might as well have white every game because he's playing the black pieces as if he had the first move. In this position right here, he has absolutely nothing to worry about. White has no like real threats or anything, and White actually has to be careful that somehow these pawns don't uh, turn into a pass pawn. So Rook E1, again, the same thing we saw in the game Magnus won. We see that he is able to force his opponent to put his pieces in inferior squares. First, the rook is looking beautiful on a nice open file. Now watch it. Bam, 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 bam. You know what I'm saying? Now it has to go to rook E1. Defense. Hitting up the queen and creating a little space for the king. This is all comfortable for Magnus right here. Making sure that rook is stuck now to the defense. Now if Magnus could get rid of this pawn on C2, game would be over. So now here's this Karjakin trying to hold on, just like Leonardo DiCaprio in the Titanic. At the end when he was hanging on that raft, just trying to stay alive. In this case, he's able to do it, but it just doesn't look. It doesn't look like inspired chess to me. It just looks like he just again just trying to make it through the fight, trying to make it look respectable. You know. So Queen F3, and here's Magnus again pressing. And of course, Karjakin plays the right move. The trade off these pawns. Like I said, if this pawn is gone, the game is over. Of course, Magnus being the fighter, he wants to attack. Magnus wants to win. Magnus wants to get back to Norway. He's like, okay, New York City is nice and everything, but I'm ready to wrap this up. Liv Tyler is waiting for Magnus and all of that. So he's like, I'm trying to get, make moves now. He said I had that little scare a few games ago when I lost. I'm ready to wrap this up. So here's a good move by Karjakin, attacking two pieces at the same time. But Carlsen just hits him back, willing to part with this pawn. Not even worried about it. Of course, Karjakin is going for going for that draw. And you can't really risk this move right here. There's just too much weakness in the black position. This pawn, not the pawn, this rook is in trouble. Say for instance after simple moves like queen to d2 attacking the rook, it's just too much for Karjakin to try to pawn grab. And this is why I say Magnus is playing as if he had the first move because he has the dominant position, the pressure. He's playing, and we see, and that's what I was talking about here. So here's the attack on the rook, and this basically signifies a repetition here. and of course, the king just doesn't have any more squares to escape. So you're gonna see like this type of stuff back and forth, back and forth. So um, Karjakin can't afford to take a L in that match. So he has to just accept the draw. So that game wasn't too exciting, and I wasn't even gonna comment on it. But you know what? I just like I said, it was more of the psychological factors that made me think, about commentating on it. Just the fact that Magnus is pressing every game and putting the pressure on in every game. And it just shows Magnus' character and his fighting spirit. I mean, he for a long time people were complaining about, players, grandmasters agreeing to quick draws, and they even had to make the put rules into place, the Sophia rules to keep players from shaking hands so early. And so it's refreshing to see a player like Magnus just playing out these positions. But of course, you have people hating and complaining about that because they're like, "Oh, the game is boring, this and that." It's like, man, if the guy drew in 30 moves, then you'd be mad about that. If he drew in 15 moves every game, you'd be mad about that. Now the guy's fighting, trying to win positions that you call draw, even though you couldn't draw them yourself against him. Now it's like, oh, it's boring, this and that. So you can't please everybody. But Magnus, I want you to know that I appreciate the fighting spirit, the fighting chess. It's not your fault that you can beat these guys out of totally equal positions, and therefore your experience shows that your experience tells you to keep playing. So everybody else is telling, oh, the drawers or the engine says this and that. You got to remember, you're not playing it. He's not playing an engine. He's playing a person that gets tired, that loses focus, etc., etc. He's playing a human being, so he has every right to play on in such positions. So for those of you out there, saying stuff, from that perspective about the games being too long and all that stuff, it's like you watching the wrong sport. Watch something with the high RPM, you know, like NFL football or something, and guys are running into each other at 5 miles an hour and then retiring with concussion symptoms and all of that stuff. You know, doing that, and so you get your fix. But if you could appreciate the thought and the power that's going into each move, and what it takes, then this is the sport for you. But anyway, that's enough preaching from me. I don't want to get any backlash. People start hating on me. But anyway, so please like, subscribe, comment, tell your friends, etc., etc. And there's a rest day tomorrow. So Monday, hopefully, I'm thinking that's it. I'm calling that game right now, 1-0, Carlsen. So let's see if it comes true. I'll see you there.